Welcome back to Close Up and our extended conversation with Governor Kelly Ayotte. Governor, thanks again for joining us on this Sunday morning.
Thanks, Adam.
So let's talk about another top legislative priority of yours that you got across the finish line, and that is the bell-to-bell cell phone ban in schools. There was a lot of sort of trepidation of how's this going to work? The kids really love those phones. What are the initial reports in these first few weeks of school coming back to you?
Actually, they've been positive. And Adam, here's a funny story. At my inaugural, I announced that I wanted to do the bell-to-bell cell phone ban. And then, of course, I had my son, who's a senior, in the audience, and we walked out, and he goes, "Mom, you could have given me the heads up on that one." But the reaction has been very good. You know, I was at Glendy last weekend, and I had teachers, also guidance counselor, principal, talk to me and say, you know what, we're seeing a positive impact with that, with the kids talking to each other, more focus in the classroom. Now, when you implement a policy like that, of course, there's going to be bumps in the beginning, adjustment for kids, parents, teachers, but we've gotten a lot of positive feedback of, you know, just making sure that we're really focusing on education and the communication, though. Just even the socialization with our kids, which is so important. I think we're going to see very positive outcomes from this, and I'm confident, certainly, as we go forward, that any bumps in the implementation will get all straightened out. And I'm so glad we did this. I think it's going to be so good for our kids, our teachers, and just having a much better environment in thinking about all of us, too. We need to lead by example. I do it, too. You know, you'll be at dinner and you're looking at your cell phone. So can we still have those conversations and make sure we're showing our kids? And also the cyberbullying piece, like if you're not on your phones during the day, then that social media piece is calm down, and that's a good thing for our kids to have that break.
Yeah, it was a notable thing in the Concord Monitor report. They're saying that the lunchroom is noisy again, which is almost it's crazy to think that it wasn't.
Yes.
But
when you think about when we were in school, that lunchroom was always noisy. It's noisy again, and that's a good thing. Yeah. The kids talking to each other, friends connecting, it's a good thing.
Let's stick with the State House, but also an issue that has a national nexus and one that keeps resurfacing, and that's congressional redistricting. A report from Politico last week said the White House really wants to bring this congressional redistricting back in New Hampshire, particularly probably looking at Congressional District 1, much more competitive, potentially making that an easier pickup for Republicans. Has the administration reached out to you or your team at all to discuss this?
Well, listen, as I look at this issue, and you and I have talked about it before, that we're in the middle of the census. I don't think the timing is right for redistricting. And as I look at where we are and the things we should be focusing on, this is not something that I support doing at this point in the middle of the census.
You've been very clear, but is there a possibility you could change your mind?
No. Thank you.
The report said, and I want to quote here, the White House is prepared to use a take no prisoners approach, end quote, to get you to sign a new map. What's your reaction to that?
Well, listen, I react to the people of New Hampshire. And as I get up every day, the thing that they're talking to me about is not redistricting. They're talking to me about housing, childcare, keeping our streets safe, energy costs. So as I think about this issue, when I got into office, we talked about this. We're in the middle of the census. This is in the beginning of the census when you would normally do this. And I think there are a lot of other priorities we can be working on in Concord. I'm
not trying to beat a dead horse here, but this will transition to another question as well. What if they incentivize this for you? You know, there's this new rural health transformation initiative, and they say, hey, you're going to get tens of millions of dollars more if you're willing to play ball on this. Is that something you'd be willing to trade?
Well, New Hampshire is going to be applying for this rural transformation grant. It's going to be very positive. I'm so happy that the Trump administration has put this in the bill, because we're going to have an opportunity to expand telehealth in the North Country and help areas of our state to make sure everyone has access. So I'm excited about that. We're going to work really hard on that. I don't see the two things related, and I'm very happy that the administration is doing that, and we're able to work with them on that.
Certainly a lot of this money is intended to sort of mitigate the loss of Medicaid funds that a lot of rural hospitals relied on. Is it realistic to think that New Hampshire can really get the full, I think, what is it, $500 million really that might be on the table for New Hampshire? Is it realistic to think that the state can get all of that?
I think it is. You know, I had the opportunity to talk to Dr. Oz, who's the head of CMS. I talked to Secretary Kennedy at a meeting of all the governors, and what they laid forward and how we apply, I thought it was pretty straightforward, and they're looking for innovation. I recently held a forum, as you were there in Littleton, with, we had the healthcare providers in the North Country, we had mental health centers, we had concerned citizens there. We're going to be asking for more feedback from the public. In New Hampshire, I think we have a great opportunity here. We're going to maximize that, and I'm confident that we'll take advantage of whatever resources we can get from Washington to expand access to health care, make sure that everyone in this state, especially the more rural areas, they can have a provider. If they need a specialist, let's give them access to that. That is so, and make it affordable. That's so important to me.
The hospitals have said even if all of this money comes, it still might not be able to make up the difference in the loss in Medicaid funds. There's a lot of worry about, rural hospitals being able to stay open. Is that a concern here? Do you see that happening in the next couple of years in terms of a closure?
Well, listen, I think it's really important that our rural hospitals stay open. It's one of the reasons, actually, in the legislature, you probably heard this term Met-DISH funding, the critical access hospitals. I fought really hard to make sure that the resources we were giving there were especially focused on our critical access hospitals. In this application for the grant, they're my priority, along with the mental health centers and our federally qualified health centers, all working together. And so we've got to work together to make sure that they stay open, they're accessible to the North Country and to rural areas, and it's very important to me. And I think if we all work together, we can make it happen.
Another issue that you've been working on is this TRIO funding. This is a Department of Education program that helps low-income and disadvantaged students make the transition to college, which can be difficult, even if, for a lot of people, this might be the first person in their family to go to college.
Right.
So these are resources that really help them get there and stay there. The Department of Education just said, hey, we're taking this grant back, $1.2 million. What are the chances that you can get this funding restored for the state? It sounds like this was important.
I can tell you it's important funding. It doesn't come directly through the state. It comes to the university, but we are fighting, and I'm going to fight for this funding. I'm writing directly, and I'm contacting directly Secretary McMahon on it and any other officials we can in Washington, but I'm going to fight for that for New Hampshire. I do think it's important funding, and so anything that I can do, we're going to do, and I can say that for everything that impacts New Hampshire, we work together in spending those dollars federally effectively, and I think we can show that to Washington, and that's what we're going to push hard for.
You served in Washington. Budgeting is one thing. Organizations, schools, all these people can plan around that. What we see now, though, are these clawbacks of congressionally appropriated funds. Is this... this seems like something that's really causing a lot of disorder and disarray. Do you disagree with the way the administration is handling this?
Yeah, I do disagree with some of these clawbacks, and I've been quite open about it because we need to be able to understand for planning going forward, and then if you're going to make changes, I think they're better to make them prospectively and then work with us on those. But, and that's why as governor, I get up every day and I say, okay, if that happens to us, I'm going to fight for us to mitigate anything that happens and make sure that we're fighting for the funds here for New Hampshire. But again, people have to plan, so I prefer to not have those happen.
Yeah, right. Is this the way the system is supposed to work, though, having to be supplicant to a bureaucrat in Washington?
I don't like bureaucrats, let me just be honest. I don't like any bureaucrats. And so it's not that they don't have, important jobs. There are people in government that have great jobs. When people act like a bureaucrat is what I'm saying. When they say it's more important that you have to file my paperwork and do this, as opposed to what are we trying to accomplish together, whether it's in education, housing, whatever the issue is. So I'm always going to be against that. It's also, by the way, in my budget, why I'm trying to streamline New Hampshire government. That is a top priority of mine, because what I want people to experience with New Hampshire government is that you can get an answer. You have transparency. You have accessibility to government. I expect that in New Hampshire. We should have that at the federal level, and we should have transparency.
You mentioned the streamlining. It just occurred to me, we haven't seen COGE, the Commission on Government Efficiency, meet in several months. What's going on there?
So COGE has been working with individual agencies, and they're working to come forward with recommendations, and I think we're going to see those recommendations this fall. And I'm excited to see that. Again, they're going to have some areas where we can be better, and that's the goal.
Let's circle back to some of your vetoes this summer. We haven't had you in here in a while. A lot of conservatives expected you to sign that Defending Women's Spaces bill, but you vetoed it, just like Governor Sununu did. This was the bill that sort of dealt broadly with transgender issues of, who can go in women's bathrooms, locker rooms, who can go in prisons, certain ones, and sports. What specifically was wrong with this legislation?
Well, as you know, Governor Sununu also vetoed this bill. It was overly broad legislation. I think it had a number of issues. And, you know, I want to make sure that when we're legislating in these areas, we're very careful, we're narrow, and it's important that the people of New Hampshire understand we are a welcoming state. We include everyone. There are areas that I think that are important in terms of protecting children. I signed some of those bills. But also the areas that I will continue to fight for is, for example, women's sports. And we have a statute that's being challenged on that. I'm confident that that statute will be upheld. There are other areas that I think, you know, prisons, things we should address. But this is a very broad bill. And I can understand why Governor Sununu was concerned about it, and I shared those concerns. And I didn't think that was the right way to legislate in this area.
So perhaps if these are taken apart into individual segments, there are some aspects you could support.
Well, I think there are maybe some narrow pieces that we could support. And we want to do that in a careful, thoughtful way. And that's, I think, important because, again, we want everyone to feel included and welcome. We want to protect and respect people's privacy, and we will do that. But we're going to do it in a New Hampshire way.
All right, real quick, before we wrap up, the Canadian trade delegation, what are the results we're going to see from that visit you made up north?
It was a great visit up north. Excellent relations. We were welcomed. You know, I think, as you know, it's just showing up and being there, both in Nova Scotia, Montreal, Quebec City. Great contacts made in the life sciences area, manufacturing, the timber industry. So there's going to be follow-up from the relationships that we met with businesses, the local leaders, and it was great to be able to pitch the New Hampshire Advantage. We're open for business. We've had a long-standing relationship with Canada, and we're going to build on that relationship.
All right, Governor Kelly Ayotte, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Adam. Great to be with you. Appreciate it.
All right.